Life, it has a way of showing us moments that are fleeting, tiny windows of opportunity that, if we blink, we may never see again. And sometimes those moments define everything. I want to talk to you today about something rare, something that happens once in a lifetime. It's not about winning a prize or gaining recognition. It's about realizing the value of now before it slips away. Life has a rhythm. It moves, sometimes slow and gentle, like the tide pulling at the shore, and sometimes fast and unforgiving, like a storm that catches you unaware. Most of the time, we are swept along by that rhythm without noticing it. We follow routines, check boxes, move through days as if tomorrow is guaranteed. And yet, life doesn't hand out reminders. It doesn't announce when something extraordinary is about to pass before our eyes. Rare moments are just that. Rare, they are delicate, fleeting, and sometimes almost invisible. If we fail to recognize them, they slip through our fingers like sand, and we are left with nothing but the echo of what could have been. Recognizing these rare moments begins with paying attention. It begins with noticing the small, seemingly ordinary details around us. It is in the pause between conversations, in the quiet of early morning before the world wakes, in the smile of a stranger that catches you unexpectedly. There is power in observation. There is life in awareness. Most people live their lives on autopilot, going from task to task, consumed by what's urgent, never noticing what's important. But those who pause, who look, who pay attention, they catch the hints of something rare. They see it before it disappears. I remember once walking through a forest early in the morning, the mist still hanging low over the ground, when a beam of sunlight broke through the trees and hit the dew on the leaves. I stopped. I just stopped. And for a moment, the world held still. That beam of light, that simple fleeting display, felt like it had been placed there just for me. In that instant, everything else, the noise in my mind, the stress, the plans, the regrets, they all faded. It was a rare moment. And though it lasted only a heartbeat, it stayed with me. I returned to that memory many times, especially when life became heavy, as a reminder that the extraordinary is often hiding inside the ordinary, waiting for us to notice. These moments can be grand too. Meeting someone who changes the trajectory of your life, seeing a place that awakens something deep within you, hearing a piece of music that stirs your soul. Opportunities, encounters, realizations, they often come without warning. A young woman might meet a mentor at a chance networking event, a mentor who sees her potential and pushes her to levels she never imagined. A man might witness an act of kindness from a stranger in a moment of despair, and it transforms the way he treats everyone afterward. These rare moments are everywhere, yet we rarely recognize them. There is research that shows that our brains are wired to notice threats more than blessings, problems more than gifts. Evolution made us cautious, it kept us alive, but in the modern world, this instinct can blind us to the beauty of rare moments. When we are focused only on survival, only on the next challenge, only on the pressures of our responsibilities, we miss the subtle signals that life sends us. A rare moment might come in the form of a quiet conversation, a glance that communicates more than words, a small coincidence that, when looked at closely, carries a message. I once knew a man who worked tirelessly day in and day out, never taking time for himself. He had a family, but even they often felt like an afterthought. One day, he took a trip to the mountains, almost reluctantly, because it seemed like the responsible thing to do. While hiking alone, he found himself standing at the edge of a cliff, overlooking a valley bathed in golden light. It was silent, not a sound except for the wind brushing against the trees. And in that silence, he had an epiphany. He realized that life was not just about work, bills, or obligations. Life was about moments like this, rare and fragile, that remind us of what it means to be alive. That day, he returned home with a new perspective, a renewed sense of purpose, and a commitment to cherish what truly mattered. That recognition changed the course of his life entirely. Recognizing rare moments also means understanding that they don't come with guarantees. They often arrive disguised hidden beneath the mundane, or wrapped in circumstances we might initially resist. A person might encounter a stranger who offers advice that changes their career path, but at first, they dismiss it. A musician might be offered a chance to perform on a stage that could define their career, but fear stops them from taking it. These moments demand attentiveness, courage, and a willingness to see the extraordinary in what seems ordinary. There is something deeply human about missing rare moments. We all do it. We wait, we hesitate, we doubt, we think, tomorrow I will notice, tomorrow I will act, tomorrow I will see. But tomorrow does not belong to us. Life doesn't pause to give us a second chance. Rare moments often happen once, and if we are not present, they vanish. I remember reading about a couple who had been together for decades, yet always postponed conversations, postponed forgiveness, postponed vulnerability. Then one day, one of them fell ill. The rare opportunity to connect fully, to share honestly, slipped away. The regret lingered. The lesson is stark. Notice the moment now before it disappears. It's not always obvious when a rare moment is unfolding. Sometimes it's wrapped in discomfort, challenge, or even pain. That's why awareness alone isn't enough. We must also cultivate a sense of reflection. We must learn to step back and ask ourselves, what is happening here? What am I feeling? Why does this moment matter? A child might cry in frustration, and a parent might feel exhausted. But in that cry, there is a fleeting moment to connect, to teach, to guide, to love. That is rare. That is precious. One of the most beautiful aspects of recognizing rare moments is that they often teach us about gratitude. When we notice them, we realize how fortunate we are. The air we breathe, the people we love, the moments that make our hearts race or soften, they are gifts, not entitlements. Researchers at the University of California found that people who regularly take time to recognize meaningful experiences report higher levels of happiness, improved mental health, and a greater sense of fulfillment. It's simple, really noticing the rare makes life richer. It makes life fuller. It gives meaning to ordinary days. Think about a musician who performs every night in small venues. To an outside observer, it might look repetitive, even mundane. But when that musician notices the way a single note can move a listener, when they recognize the connection made in that instant, the performance transforms. It becomes a rare moment. They become alive in a way that transcends the routine. Life is full of these opportunities. The key is to see them, to feel them, to let them touch us. Recognizing rare moments also requires patience. Not every extraordinary thing is immediate. Sometimes it builds slowly, layered upon ordinary experiences, until one day, suddenly, you notice it. A young couple might spend years navigating challenges in their relationship. They argue, they disagree, they stumble. And then one day, sitting quietly together, they realize that the rare moment has arrived. They truly understand each other. They see the depth of connection that has been growing all along. Life often rewards patience in subtle ways. And when you recognize a rare moment, it is not just about observing it, it is about internalizing it. It is about letting it change you. Standing in front of a sunset or feeling the first snow of winter is one thing, but allowing that moment to reshape your understanding of life, of people, of love, that is another. Rare moments are catalysts. They push us to reflect, to act, to grow. If we ignore them, we lose more than the moment itself. We lose the potential transformation it offers. Consider a teacher who notices a student struggling silently. The rare moment comes when the teacher decides to intervene, not because it's convenient, not because it's required, but because they truly see the student. That intervention could change the trajectory of that child's life. That's the power of noticing. That's the power of rare moments. They are invitations, opportunities for courage, compassion, and connection. Most importantly, recognizing rare moments reminds us that life is fragile, that time is finite. A rare moment is precious because it is not guaranteed to return. It teaches urgency, but not in a way that pressures us, urgency in a way that inspires presence. To recognize it is to honor life itself, to acknowledge that each day, each encounter, each breath is a gift. And the rare moments are the jewels within that gift, fleeting but unforgettable, ordinary yet extraordinary. So we watch, we listen, we feel, we let our hearts tune into the small, subtle, beautiful details that make life what it is. The way sunlight glints off the surface of a river, the way a loved one's laughter fills a room, the way a stranger's kindness can soften a hard day. These are the rare moments. They ask only that we notice, that we pause, that we appreciate, that we allow them to touch us deeply. The world has a way of moving fast, of pulling us in directions that seem important, but often aren't. But if we slow down, if we look carefully, if we open ourselves to possibility, we begin to see them. The rare moments are there, waiting. And when we recognize them, something shifts. Our perspective widens, our hearts open, our lives become richer. We carry those moments with us in memory, in spirit. In the subtle way they shape the choices we make and the love we give. In the end, recognizing rare moments is not just a skill, it is a way of being. It is a practice of presence, gratitude, and attentiveness. It is the first step toward living a life that is full, meaningful, and awake. Because life, in all its unpredictability, offers these moments sparingly. They are not meant to be taken for granted. They are invitations to notice, to feel, to live fully. They happen once, sometimes twice, rarely more. But when they do, they have the power to change everything. And if we are paying attention, if we are truly present, we recognize them. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is not a sudden explosion of bravery or a dramatic, heroic act. True courage is quieter than that. It is the gentle but firm decision to move forward, even when every instinct in your body tells you to stop. It is the willingness to step into uncertainty, into the unknown, and still choose to act. And in life, there are moments, rare, fleeting, transformative, where courage is not just an option. It is the only way forward. Most people spend their lives waiting for fear to disappear before taking action. They wait for the perfect conditions, the ideal timing, the right alignment of stars. They think that courage is something that comes naturally, that it appears suddenly when the moment is right. But that is an illusion. Fear will always exist. Fear is part of being alive. Fear is a signal that something matters, that the stakes are real, that what you are about to do is important. And it is precisely because of fear that courage becomes meaningful. I remember a story of a young woman who had dreamed of becoming a writer her whole life. She spent years writing in secret, hiding her work from everyone because she was terrified of rejection. She worried about what others would think, about failing publicly, about her dreams being dismissed as foolish. One day, she received an invitation to submit her work to a local literary magazine. She stared at the email for hours, her heart pounding. Every excuse in her mind whispered, "Not now, you're not ready." And yet, something inside her whispered back, "Do it anyway." She clicked send, and that act of courage, so quiet, so simple, changed her life. Her work was published, her confidence began to grow, and doors she had never imagined began to open. The act itself was small, but the courage behind it was monumental. Courage is often disguised as ordinary decisions. It might be choosing to speak your truth when staying silent is easier. It might be taking the first step toward a new career, even when the path ahead is uncertain. It might be asking someone for help, admitting vulnerability, or confronting a difficult truth. These moments may seem insignificant at first, but in retrospect, they are the turning points that define our lives. Every act of courage, no matter how small, is a defiance of fear, a statement that we are willing to risk discomfort for something greater. I once met a man who had spent years in a job that drained him, day after day, making him feel invisible and unfulfilled. He had a dream of starting his own business, but he was paralyzed by fear. He worried about finances, about failure, about what people would think. Every day he woke up and did what was expected, not what he wanted. Then one morning, after months of hesitation, he made a decision. He walked into his boss's office and resigned. He had no plan, no safety net, but he had courage. That courage propelled him into a world he had never dared to enter, And eventually, he built a business that not only brought him financial stability, but also deep satisfaction. The courage to act, even without certainty, became the catalyst for his transformation. Courage is rarely glamorous. It is rarely acknowledged or celebrated in the moment. Often, it is silent, unseen, and misunderstood. People look at the results of courage, the success, the achievement, the triumph, and assume it was easy. They do not see the nights of doubt, the internal battles, the moments of trembling hesitation. True courage is messy. It is uncertain. It is filled with questions that have no immediate answers. It is choosing to act when every part of you wants to run away, because you understand that action is the only way to honor the importance of the moment. There is a natural human tendency to cling to comfort. We stay in routines, in jobs, in relationships, and in environments that feel safe because the unknown is frightening. But rare moments, moments that could change the course of your life, live on the other side of fear. If you never act, they pass by quietly, unnoticed, leaving you with nothing but what ifs and regrets. Courage is the bridge between who you are and who you could become. It is the vessel through which potential is transformed into reality. Consider the example of a scientist who discovered a breakthrough idea in her research. She knew that sharing it would be controversial, that colleagues might dismiss her findings or challenge her credibility. Fear of criticism whispered, "Stay silent. Wait, protect yourself," but she chose courage. She published her work. It was met with resistance, debate, and doubt, but ultimately, it changed the understanding of her entire field. That act of courage did not just serve her, it served countless others who would benefit from her discovery. Courage has ripple effects that we cannot always foresee. One brave choice can create waves that extend far beyond ourselves. Courage is also about integrity. It is about acting in alignment with your values, even when it is inconvenient, even when it is risky. It is easy to follow the crowd, to do what is expected, to take the path of least resistance. But when a rare moment presents itself, an opportunity to live authentically, to speak honestly, to stand for something meaningful, courage becomes essential. Without it, the moment passes, and we are left wondering what could have been. With it, we are transformed. One of the most powerful forms of courage is the courage to forgive. Forgiveness is not weakness, it is action. It requires stepping forward into vulnerability, confronting pain, and choosing to release the weight that binds us. I once knew a man whose closest friend betrayed him in a way that left deep wounds. For years, he held on to anger, replaying every moment in his mind. Then one day, he made a conscious decision to act, not for the friend, but for himself. He forgave. That act of courage lifted a burden that had defined his life for too long. Rare moments of transformation often demand this kind of courage because they ask us to step into discomfort in pursuit of freedom. Fear is never fully gone, and hesitation never completely disappears. Courage is a decision, moment by moment. It is choosing to act even when certainty is absent. A young man might be terrified to express love for the first time, knowing it could be unrequited. An entrepreneur might risk everything on a venture that could fail. An artist might release a piece of work into the world, exposing the depth of their soul. In each case, courage is not about guarantees. It is about trusting that the act itself matters, that it is worth the risk, that the moment demands it. History is filled with stories of ordinary people who acted with courage and changed the world. Rosa Parks, sitting quietly on that bus, choosing to remain seated, transformed a movement. A teacher standing up for a marginalized student changed countless lives. An activist speaking out against injustice, despite threats, ignited change. What all these people have in common is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. They teach us that courage is not reserved for the extraordinary. It is available to anyone who chooses to step forward. Courage also requires self-trust. To act, we must believe in our own capacity to handle whatever comes next. We must trust that even if we stumble, even if the outcome is uncertain, we have the resilience to face the consequences. This self-trust grows through small acts as much as large ones. Each time we act despite fear, we reinforce our ability to act again. Courage is cumulative. It builds quietly, moment by moment, until it becomes a force that guides us through life's rare and fleeting opportunities. I once watched a friend, paralyzed by fear of public speaking, finally step onto a stage. Her hands trembled, her voice shook, and yet she began. She spoke imperfectly, authentically, and with all her heart. When she finished, the audience erupted in applause, but the transformation had already occurred within her. She had crossed the threshold of fear and claimed her moment. That courage, small as it may have seemed to anyone else, was monumental. It was the difference between a life constrained by hesitation and a life defined by action. Rare moments demand courage because they often come once. There is no rehearsal, no guarantee, no safety net. They arrive unexpectedly, unannounced, and they call on us to step forward. And if we fail to act, the moment fades. We cannot rewind time. We cannot summon it again. But when we choose courage, when we choose to act despite fear, we honor the moment, we honor ourselves, and we open the door to possibilities we may never have imagined. Courage is also contagious. When one person acts bravely, it inspires others to do the same. A single act of courage can ripple through families, communities, and even generations. A parent who confronts a personal fear shows their children that bravery is possible. A friend who stands up for another demonstrates that integrity matters. Courage does not exist in isolation. It spreads, it transforms, it creates momentum that extends far beyond the initial act. It is important to understand that courage does not guarantee immediate reward. It does not promise recognition, comfort, or even success. Its value lies in the act itself, in the decision to move forward despite fear. It is the commitment to live authentically, to honor the rare moments, to engage fully with life. The act of courage may be invisible to the world, but its impact is profound. It changes us, and through us, it changes the world. So when the moment arrives, when opportunity knocks, when life presents a challenge that matters, remember this: courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act anyway. It is the quiet voice that says, I will try, I will step forward, I will do what matters. It is the choice that transforms hesitation into action, fear into empowerment, ordinary moments into life-altering experiences. Courage is the bridge between who we are and who we could become. It is the vehicle through which potential is realized, through which dreams are pursued, through which life's rare and fleeting moments are seized. Without courage, those moments pass unnoticed. With it, they define us. Every step taken in spite of fear, every word spoken in spite of doubt, every action carried out in spite of uncertainty, these are the acts that shape our lives, that leave marks on the world, that remind us that living fully is a choice, and that choice belongs to us alone. Life has a way of moving so fast that we often forget to notice the people who make it worth living. We get caught up in our routines, our goals, our ambitions, thinking that time is endless, that there will always be tomorrow to say what needs to be said, to show what needs to be shown. But the truth is, the people around us are not permanent. Friends drift apart, loved ones grow older, moments with them pass, and once they are gone, the chance to truly cherish them may never return. We think we have forever, but life is fragile. The rare moments we spend with the people who matter are fleeting, and recognizing their value is one of the most important lessons we can learn. I once knew a woman who spent most of her adult life consumed by her career. She had friends, she had family, but she prioritized work above all else. One day, she received a call that her childhood friend was in the hospital, seriously ill. She rushed to the hospital, only to realize that years of distance had created a quiet gap between them. She had missed countless moments, birthdays, milestones, conversations that could have deepened their bond. In that sterile hospital room, she understood the weight of what she had neglected. She spent hours by her friend's side, holding her hand, talking, listening, remembering the laughter of their youth. That day, the rare moment of reconnection became a turning point. She vowed never to take relationships for granted again. Rare moments with the people we love do not announce themselves. They require our attention, our presence, and our willingness to cherish them while we still can. Cherishing people is not about grand gestures or elaborate declarations. It is about presence. It is about showing up fully even in the smallest ways. A simple act of listening without distraction, a phone call to check in, a note to say, "I see you," carries more weight than we often realize. Research in psychology shows that people who feel truly seen and valued experience higher levels of happiness, stronger relationships, and even better health outcomes. To cherish someone is to acknowledge their presence in your life, to honor their value, and to be willing to invest time and attention in them. I remember walking through a park one afternoon and seeing an elderly man sitting alone on a bench. He was feeding birds, watching the world go by quietly. A child approached him, curious, and the man shared a small story about his childhood, about lessons he had learned, about love and loss. The child listened wide-eyed, captivated. That moment, though simple and fleeting, was profound. The man could have been invisible, passing unnoticed in the business of life, but he chose to share a part of himself, and it created a rare connection. Cherishing people is about creating those moments, even when they seem ordinary, even when no one is watching, even when the world moves too fast to pause. Relationships are fragile, and they are often tested in ways we do not expect. Conflicts arise, misunderstandings happen, and people can hurt each other, sometimes unintentionally, sometimes deeply. But even in those moments, there is opportunity to cherish. It is not about ignoring pain or pretending that everything is perfect. It is about choosing to see the person beyond the conflict, to acknowledge their humanity, to act with compassion. I knew a man who had been estranged from his sister for years over a family disagreement. Every holiday, he felt the ache of absence, the void of what could have been. One day, he decided to call her, not with demands or expectations, but with an open heart. They spoke, they cried, they laughed. That act of reaching out, of cherishing the bond despite the pain, restored something that had seemed lost forever. Rare moments often require courage as much as they require presence. Cherishing people is also about appreciating the fleeting nature of life itself. Every day, we are granted interactions with those around us that may never occur again. A parent might watch their child play in the yard, unaware that the child will soon grow up and leave home. Friends may share a conversation over coffee, not knowing that distance or life changes will separate them. A partner may smile at a quiet dinner, not knowing how many more meals like this they will share. These moments are delicate, and they are precious. To cherish someone is to recognize that the time you have with them is a gift, not a guarantee. I once met a woman whose mother was struggling with illness. She had spent years taking her mother for granted, assuming that there would always be time for conversations, for visits, for care. But illness has a way of accelerating time. The rare moments they shared, holding hands, reminiscing, sharing stories of the past, became treasures. In those moments, the woman understood the profound importance of presence. She realized that cherishing someone is not about waiting for a perfect moment. It is about embracing the imperfect moments, the ordinary moments, the fleeting moments while they still exist. People around us often teach us lessons, sometimes without even knowing it. A friend's resilience can inspire courage. A partner's love can strengthen vulnerability. A colleague's kindness can ignite gratitude. To cherish someone is to acknowledge the impact they have on our lives, to honor the ways they shape us, and to express that recognition. It is in the acknowledgement that relationships deepen, that bonds strengthen, and that life gains meaning beyond the ordinary. Sometimes, cherishing people means saying things that are hard to say, expressing gratitude, love, or forgiveness before it is too late. It is easy to assume that words can wait, that feelings can be held in reserve, that apologies can be delayed. But life is unpredictable. People change, circumstances shift, and opportunities to connect may vanish. A simple, I love you, I forgive you, or I appreciate you can transform a relationship, heal wounds, and create moments of connection that echo long after the words are spoken. I remember a young man who had been distant from his father for years. They had fought, they had disagreed, and pride had kept them apart. One day, the father fell seriously ill. The young man rushed to his side, unsure of what to say, fearing rejection, fearing that the years of silence had created an irreparable gap. And yet, when he spoke from his heart, the father listened. They shared stories, regrets, laughter, and tears. That rare moment of connection, born of presence and courage, became a memory that neither would ever forget. Cherishing people often requires vulnerability. It requires the willingness to risk discomfort in pursuit of something deeper, something meaningful, something eternal. We live in a world full of distractions. Phones, emails, social media, endless tasks and obligations. It is easy to forget the people who matter most in the noise of life. We attend events but fail to be fully present. We have conversations but listen only partially. We take the gestures of love and friendship for granted, assuming that they are constants in a world that is anything but constant. To cherish people is to choose presence over distraction, to prioritize connection over convenience, and to value time over tasks. Even the smallest gestures carry immense weight. A text to check in, a shared meal, a hand on a shoulder, a smile across a crowded room. These are not trivial. They are expressions of acknowledgement, of attention, of care. They are ways of saying, without words, you matter to me. I see you. I value you. And when we consistently act in this way, we build relationships that endure, even when life changes, even when distance separates, even when challenges arise. Cherishing people is also about empathy. It is about understanding that everyone carries burdens, fears, and struggles that are often invisible. A friend may seem distant, a partner may seem distracted, a colleague may seem harsh. But when we choose to cherish, we look beyond the surface. We see the human being beneath. We recognize that their actions, even when flawed, are part of a larger story. Empathy allows us to respond with compassion rather than judgment, to connect rather than withdraw, to love rather than resent. There is profound power in shared experiences. A walk in the park, a road trip, a quiet evening together. These are not just moments, they are memories being woven. The act of cherishing someone transforms ordinary experiences into extraordinary ones. When we notice the laughter, the stories, the gestures, we elevate the moment. We honor the people around us by making them feel seen, appreciated, and loved. These moments accumulate, shaping lives, forming bonds, and creating the legacy of our relationships. I once observed a man caring for his elderly neighbor. Every day, he would check in, help with groceries, share a meal, listen to stories from decades past. The neighbor had no family nearby, no one else to rely on. That consistent presence, that deliberate choice to cherish, created a life of connection and meaning for both of them. The man's actions were quiet, unnoticed by the wider world, yet their impact was profound. Cherishing people is not always celebrated, but it is always transformative. Time, ultimately, is the most precious gift we can give. We cannot slow it down, pause it, or reclaim it once it passes. To cherish people is to invest our time intentionally. It is to prioritize what truly matters over what merely demands attention. It is to show up fully, to listen deeply, and to act with love, even when it is inconvenient, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it requires sacrifice. The rare moments we share with others are fleeting, but when we cherish them, we create a lifetime of meaning. To cherish people around us is to recognize that life is a shared journey, not a solitary one. Every smile, every word, every gesture, every act of kindness is an opportunity to leave an imprint on another's soul. Every connection is an opportunity to enrich our own life as much as it enriches theirs. It is in these moments of shared presence, of intentional care, that life reveals its deepest beauty. The people around us are not just companions, they are mirrors, teachers, sources of joy, and anchors in the storm. To cherish them is to honor life itself. At some point in life, we all begin to feel it. a heaviness we can't quite explain, a sense that we're tired, but not from physical effort, tired in a deeper way, the kind of tired that comes from carrying too much for too long, expectations, regrets, old stories, relationships that drain more than they give, habits that no longer serve us. We keep holding on because letting go feels frightening, because we tell ourselves that what we're carrying is part of who we are. But often, it's not who we are at all. It's just what we've gotten used to carrying. Letting go is one of the hardest things a person can do, not because it's complicated, but because it's emotional. We attach meaning to things, to people, to roles, to pain. We convince ourselves that if we release them, we lose a part of ourselves. But the truth is, holding on to what no longer serves you doesn't make you stronger. It makes you smaller. It narrows your world. It keeps you tied to a version of life that has already passed. I once met a man who carried resentment like armor. Years earlier, he had been wronged by someone he trusted deeply, betrayed, humiliated, and instead of processing that pain, he held on to it. He replayed it. He sharpened it. He told himself that his anger kept him safe, that it reminded him to never be vulnerable again. But what it really did was isolate him. It affected his relationships, his health, his ability to feel joy. When he finally chose to let go, not to excuse what happened, but to release its control over him, he didn't become weaker. He became free. The weight he had been carrying for years fell away, and for the first time in a long time, he could breathe. We often don't realize how much unnecessary weight we carry until we put it down. We hold on to guilt for mistakes we made when we didn't know better. We hold on to shame for things that no longer define us. We hold on to expectations that were never ours to begin with. Society tells us who we should be, how fast we should move, what success should look like. And without questioning it, we pick up those expectations and carry them as if they were law. But not everything you're handed is meant to be carried for life. There's a quiet power in choosing simplicity, in choosing clarity, in choosing to ask yourself, honestly, why am I holding on to this? Is it because it adds meaning to my life, or because I'm afraid of who I might be without it? Fear often disguises itself as attachment. We cling to familiar pain because unfamiliar peace feels uncertain. But growth has never lived in certainty. Growth lives in the space you create when you let go. Think about how many people stay in environments that slowly drain them, jobs that erode their spirit, relationships that keep them doubting their worth, friendships built on obligation instead of connection. They stay because leaving feels selfish, because staying feels responsible. But there is nothing noble about self-abandonment. Letting go of what harms you is not an act of selfishness. It's an act of self-respect. Letting go doesn't always mean walking away dramatically. Sometimes it's quieter than that. Sometimes it's changing how much access someone has to your inner world. Sometimes it's releasing the need to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Sometimes it's accepting that not every relationship is meant to last forever, and that some people are chapters, not the whole story. We also carry unnecessary weight in our minds, endless overthinking, replaying conversations, imagining worst-case scenarios that never come true. Our minds are powerful tools, but when left unchecked, they can become prisons. Letting go, in this sense, means learning when to stop engaging with thoughts that offer nothing but anxiety. It means recognizing that not every thought deserves your attention. Peace begins when you stop arguing with every worry that crosses your mind. I once heard someone say that your life changes when you decide what you're no longer available for. That sentence stayed with me. Because it's true. When you stop being available for disrespect, for chaos, for constant explanation, for emotional exhaustion, something shifts. You create boundaries. And boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They allow what nourishes you to enter and keep what drains you out. There is also the weight of perfection, the pressure to get everything right, to never fail, to always appear strong. That pressure is unnecessary, and yet so many people live under it. They are afraid to try because they are afraid to fall. afraid to speak because they might be judged, afraid to rest because they feel they haven't earned it. Letting go of perfection is one of the most liberating acts there is. Progress, not perfection, is where life happens. Authenticity, not flawlessness, is where connection lives. Letting go also means accepting change, accepting that who you were 5 years ago is not who you are today, and that who you are today will not be who you are tomorrow. We often cling to old identities because they feel safe, but growth requires release. A tree cannot grow if it refuses to shed old leaves. A river cannot flow if it clings to its banks. Life moves forward whether we're ready or not. Letting go simply allows us to move with it, instead of being dragged. Some of the heaviest things we carry are things no one else can see. Self-doubt, the feeling of not being enough, the belief that you have to earn love by overgiving. These beliefs often come from past experiences, from moments where we learned the wrong lessons about ourselves. Letting go of these internal narratives is not easy. It takes awareness, it takes compassion, it takes patience. But when you begin to question them, when you begin to release them, you make room for a kinder, truer relationship with yourself. There is a strange comfort in holding on to pain because it gives us a story. It gives us an identity. This is what happened to me, but you are not your wounds. You are what you do with them. Letting go doesn't erase the past. It reframes it. It allows you to carry wisdom instead of weight. I once knew a woman who had spent years chasing validation. She said yes when she wanted to say no. She overextended herself. She poured from an empty cup because she believed her worth was tied to how much she gave. Eventually, her body forced her to stop. Burnout, exhaustion, emotional numbness. When she finally let go of the need to be everything for everyone, something remarkable happened. The people who truly valued her stayed. The rest faded. And for the first time, she felt peace. Not because her life became easier, but because it became honest. Letting go is not about loss, it's about space. Space for clarity, space for rest, space for things that align with who you are becoming, not who you were expected to be. When you release what no longer fits, you don't end up with emptiness, you end up with room. There is courage in release. It takes strength to walk away from what is familiar, even when it hurts. It takes strength to choose yourself when you've been taught not to. It takes strength to trust that life will meet you where you land. But every time you let go of something unnecessary, you reclaim a part of yourself. Life is already heavy enough without us adding extra weight. We don't need to carry every opinion, every mistake, every expectation, every fear. Some things were never meant to be permanent. Some things were meant to teach us and then be released. When you let go, you don't fall apart. You come back together, lighter, clearer, more aligned. And in that lightness, something powerful happens. You move differently. You speak differently. You choose differently. You begin to live not from obligation, but from intention. Not from fear, but from clarity. Letting go is not the end of something. It is the beginning of breathing freely again. At some point, quietly and without warning, life makes something very clear to us. Time is not waiting. It never was. Every moment we are given is moving forward, whether we acknowledge it or not. And the question is not how much time we have, but how fully we live inside the time we are given. Making it count is not about doing more, achieving more, or proving anything to anyone. It's about presence. It's about intention. It's about deciding that this moment right now matters. Most people live as if life is a rehearsal, as if there will be a better moment later to speak honestly, to love deeply, to try bravely. We postpone joy. We delay courage. We assume there will always be another chance, but life doesn't guarantee repetition. It offers moments once, and then it moves on. Making it count means understanding that what you do today echoes forward in ways you may never fully see. I once met a man who had everything people say they want: a successful career, a beautiful home, financial security, and yet he felt empty. Not because he lacked something, but because he had stopped showing up fully. His days blended together, conversations became shallow, Experiences passed him by because he was always thinking about the next thing. When he finally paused and asked himself when he last felt truly alive, the answer startled him. It had been years. From that moment on, he began to change how he lived. He listened more. He slowed down. He stopped multitasking his life away. Nothing dramatic happened on the outside, but everything changed on the inside. He began to make each day count by actually being there for it. Making it count doesn't require extraordinary circumstances. It requires ordinary moments treated with extraordinary attention, a meal shared without distraction, a conversation where you listen instead of waiting to speak, a walk where you notice the air, the sound, the quiet. These moments seem small, but they are the building blocks of a meaningful life. When you are present, life expands. When you are absent, even the most remarkable experiences feel empty. There is a tendency to believe that significance lies in big milestones, achievements, recognition, applause, but some of the most important moments you will ever experience will not be witnessed by anyone else. A choice you make when no one is watching, a kind act that goes unnoticed, a moment of restraint, forgiveness, or honesty that changes the direction of your character. Making it count means valuing these moments just as much as the visible ones. I remember reading about a nurse who worked in end-of-life care. She spoke about what people talked about most in their final days. It was never about money or status. It was about moments they missed, words they never said, love they withheld because they thought there would be more time. And she also spoke about the peace she saw in those who lived differently, those who had loved openly, forgiven freely, and lived honestly. They didn't fear the end as much because they had been present for the journey. Making it count also means taking responsibility for your choices, not blaming the past, not waiting for perfect conditions, not handing your power to circumstances. Every day, you decide how you show up. You decide whether you live intentionally or reactively. You decide whether you engage with life or merely endure it. Responsibility is not a burden, it's freedom. It means your life is not happening to you, you are participating in it. There will be days that feel ordinary, even heavy, days when nothing remarkable seems to happen. But even those days are opportunities. You can make them count by choosing patience over frustration, kindness over indifference, integrity over convenience. The way you treat people when you're tired, the way you speak when you're stressed, the way you act when no reward is guaranteed. These moments shape who you are becoming. Making it count also requires courage. The courage to take risks that matter, to say yes to what aligns with you and no to what doesn't, to step into moments even when the outcome is uncertain. Regret rarely comes from trying and failing. It comes from never trying at all. When you look back on your life, you will not measure it by comfort. You will measure it by meaning. I once knew someone who dreamed of learning music later in life. Years passed, responsibilities piled up. Doubt grew louder. It's too late, they told themselves. One day, they picked up an instrument anyway, awkwardly, imperfectly, but with joy. It didn't make them famous. It didn't change their career, but it changed how they felt about themselves. It reminded them that being alive means continuing to explore, to express, to grow. They made that moment count, not because it led somewhere impressive, but because it brought them back to themselves. Making it count means refusing to sleepwalk through your own life. It means asking yourself honest questions. Am I living in alignment with what matters to me? Am I giving my best energy to the right things? Am I present with the people I love, or just physically near them? These questions are not meant to judge you. They are meant to wake you up. There is something powerful about living with awareness of impermanence, not in a fearful way, but in a clarifying way. When you understand that nothing is guaranteed, you stop postponing what matters. You stop saving your best self for later. You stop assuming people will always be there. You start saying what needs to be said. You start living as if today deserves your full attention, because it does. Making it count also means allowing yourself to feel deeply. Joy, sadness, love, disappointment, numbness is easy, detachment is tempting. But a life fully lived requires emotional presence. When you allow yourself to feel, you experience life in color instead of gray. Pain becomes a teacher instead of a burden. Joy becomes richer because you're not afraid to hold it. There is a quiet dignity in living intentionally, in choosing depth over noise, truth over performance, connection over approval. You don't need to be loud about it. You don't need validation. When you live this way, there is an internal steadiness that can't be shaken easily. You know you are using your time well, not because others applaud it, but because it feels honest. Every interaction is a chance to make it count. The way you speak to strangers, the way you respond to conflict, the way you show up for people when it's inconvenient. You never know which moment will be remembered, which word will stay with someone, which gesture will matter more than you realize. Meaning often hides in the smallest exchanges. Making it count also means forgiving yourself. For wasted time, for missed chances, for moments when you didn't know better. Guilt keeps you stuck in the past. Awareness moves you forward. You can't reclaim yesterday, but you can reclaim now. And now is enough to begin again. There is no perfect way to live a meaningful life. There is only an honest way, one where you choose presence over distraction, intention over habit, courage over fear. A life where you show up again and again, even when it's uncomfortable. Especially when it's uncomfortable. When all is said and done, your life will not be measured by how busy you were or how much you accumulated. It will be measured by how present you were, how deeply you loved, how bravely you acted, how intentionally you lived. Making it count is not about squeezing everything out of life. It's about giving yourself fully to the moments that are already here. This moment counts, not later, not someday, now. So, I ask you, don't wait. Don't wait for tomorrow, for the right time, for someone to give you permission. Life is asking you quietly, gently, sometimes forcefully. This happens once in a lifetime. And if you watch carefully, if you act bravely, if you cherish what matters, you will never forget it. Make it count before it's too late.